after this, and what other quote unquote can of worms can be opened from Roe v. Wade being overturned. Now, before we start, I want to thank you all for tuning in and thank you all for subscribing and listening. You're very, very much appreciated. Um, I'm literally setting up things so it would stream more clearly. Like for some reason here where I stay, it's like it's extremely slow. So again, this is a pre-recorded episode. But again, I want to thank you. Please like, subscribe, and for more content and other topics, of course. So again, let's talk about and if y'all hear that little ticking sound in the back, yeah, that's my cat. Every time I want to go live in my little office space, here she comes with her little scratching post to scratch. Oh, now she's retreated. So we can go on with our cast. But anyway, on the serious situation of this, um, Roe v. Wade being overturned. Now, if you don't know what Roe v. Wade is, we're gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about it, and again, the effects it can have, and the effects before Roe v. Wade, and how can it even tie into eugenics. And if you don't know what eugenics is, we're going to talk about that also today. But first and foremost, let's get to the topic at hand, the Roe v. Wade. Now, I'm going to play a clip from this is what happened with the Supreme Court hearing. Now we're going to go ahead and play the clip, and we're going to listen, and I'll probably stop in between to maybe interject or say something, but we're going to listen. And of course, it's from ABC World News Tonight, where you can catch it at, of course, abcworldnewstonight.com, and of course on YouTube, where I found it at. It is what it is. So you can hear their words verbatim, what's being said, and it can be no reconstruction of words being misconstrued on what's being said. So we're going to take a listen.
For years, and he's at the court tonight.
At the Supreme Court today, an historic upheaval. In a sweeping ruling that overturned a half a century of precedents, 5 justices ended the right of American women to choose abortion under the Constitution. The court upheld Mississippi's ban on abortions after 15 weeks by a 6-3 vote, and 5 of those justices went even farther, voting to overturn Roe versus Wade itself.
Now, as you can see, it said it was 6-3 or whatever, but 5 went for Roe versus Wade, which is overturning, which is legally stopping abortion in America. Okay. And even if a woman is assaulted or a form of incest, the woman cannot have an abortion. Even if it's to the detrimental of her health, she will not be allowed to have an abortion, which is extremely crazy to me. On one hand, I can understand what some people are saying. Like, again, of course, I like to play devil's advocate over here. I like to see from both sides and have my own opinion on what I think it should be. Now, let's play devil's advocate. You have pretty much Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh. We know who that is, y'all. And Amy Barrett. They all said, yeah, we're going to ban it. And when this ban comes across, it comes across the whole 50 states. And what's not also understood about this ban is that when this ban goes in effect, any doctor giving a woman a abortion, they can be prosecuted and fined up to $10,000 and do jail time, lose their license and all this other. They can lose it. They can literally lose their license and everything. It's so much stuff that goes back and forth with this. So, but let's listen a little bit more.
So today, Today's opinion is nearly identical to the draft that leaked from the court last month. Justice Samuel Alito rejecting the 1973 landmark ruling in Roe, scorning the idea that the Constitution protects a right to choose abortion. Roe was on a collision course with the Constitution from the day it was decided, Alito wrote. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Chief Justice John Roberts joined the conservative majority in upholding the Mississippi law, but he insisted the court did not need to overturn Roe. Instead, he searched for some middle ground, pleading. None of this, however, requires that we also take the dramatic step of altogether eliminating the abortion right first recognized in Roe. And from the liberal wing, a scathing, agonized dissent. Justice Stephen Breyer arguing that Alito's ruling is based on nothing more than the fact that 3 new justices appointed by Donald Trump, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, cast decisive votes to overturn Roe. Neither law, nor facts, nor attitudes have provided any new reasons to reach a different result than Roe did. All that has changed is this court, Breyer wrote. And in the dissent's last line, Breyer, along with Justices Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor, struck a somber note. With sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent. The impact of today's ruling will be immediate. 13 states have trigger laws that end access to abortion now that Roe is overturned. 13 more states are now expected to move quickly to ban abortion. Abortion rights groups are bracing for this new reality in America.
We certainly are going to be doing everything we can to maintain abortion access in the states that we expect to see coming hard at trying to ban abortion, to keep access to services as long as possible.
To have fought for this day for decades, there is victory and vindication.
We've been working on this for actually more than 50 years before Roe v. Wade, working to protect unborn children. We have certainly in the pro-life movement, a lot of support and programs, centers, pregnancy centers that will help women.
In a written statement, former President Trump calling today's ruling the biggest win for life in a generation. And Trump takes credit for recent conservative Supreme Court decisions made possible, he claims, because I delivered everything as promised, including nominating and getting 3 highly respected and strong constitutionalists confirmed to the United States Supreme Court. At the White House, President Biden warned of dire consequences as a result of this decision.
With Roe gone, let's be very clear. The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk. It was 3 justices named by 1 president, Donald Trump, who were the core of today's decision to upend the scales of justice and eliminate a fundamental right for women in this country.
Former Barack Obama tweeting, the Supreme Court not only reversed nearly 50 years of precedent, it relegated the most intensely personal decision someone can make to the whims of politicians and ideologues, attacking the essential freedoms of millions of Americans. And Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi accused Republicans of trying to drag women into the past.
Because of Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, and the Republican Party, their supermajority.
All right, I'm going to stop. Look, I'm not here to bash Trump or Biden. Not here for neither of that. Regardless whose fault it is, we're here to where it absolutely has been overturned. Now, again, with it being overturned, as you heard, you have these 13, trigger states that they have, of course, that if it's banned, they're going to automatically ban, even if you're 15 weeks or less. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Mississippi was one of those states where it's 15 weeks or less. And you can have an abortion. And again, it stops women's rights. Yes, it throws us way back into the past. And if we're going to go back to 50 years ago, we're going to also look at the other side of American history that was happening 15 years ago. Okay? 50 years ago. I apologize. We will be looking at that. And you'll understand a little bit more about how bad this can be and how far this can go. Now, when it comes to this Roe v. Wade being overturned, I see what the pro-life people are saying. You have a lot of women that have abused the system of getting abortion. It was supposed to be used as a state of, my right, my choice, my body. If I was assaulted, I have the right not to have a baby. If I made a mistake, and, laid down, I have a right to preserve my freedom for my life and myself. I totally get that. But then you also have these group of people and group of women, because only a woman can get an abortion. But you have these group of women that will use abortion as a form of birth control. Do I agree with that? Absolutely not. When I say use it as a form of birth control, yes, women make mistakes. Young girls make mistakes. Hell, old women make mistakes. Like, oh my goodness, I'm not ready. I wasn't trying, And again, it can also be far as health reasons. It that's your choice, because then once these unwanted kids do get here, you're going to have a system of kids that are going to be neglected, that are going to be abandoned, that are going to be abused. Why? Because the parents didn't want them from the get-go. Okay. Well, you can say, well, that opens up adoption. Okay. Yeah, it opens up adoption. But again, that opens up another form of abuse, because not everyone that adopts a child has their good intentions in hand. Let's be real. You look at the Jacqueline and the West brothers, adoptive parents. They adopted the two children, Classic and Cecilia Pettis. Later changed their last name to West, and even changed their first name to Orion and Orson West, and eventually ended up allegedly killing these children. And this was in California. I have talked about it several times on here, and I will be doing an update on that case, because there has been some updates to that case. But yeah, they have been arrested. Jacqueline and Trezell West have been arrested for allegedly killing the children. And there's also allegedly another family out there saying that the West had their children. So, and their children haven't been seen in years, allegedly. So there's a lot of things that go into adoption in the United States. Of course, everyone is not there for it. But yes, it would be helpful for the ones that are in to adopt children and everything. Yes, we can weigh the pros and cons of it. But then again, you have sometimes these young girls that are, no lie, there are hundreds of stories. I don't want to trigger anyone. I don't want to, upheave anyone's feelings, but it's the truth. You literally have some 11, 12, 13-year-old girls that have been violated. Again, by people they trust, people that they've been around, people that they love, people that they think are supporting them, whether maternal, paternal, or adoptive. And they have to now have their assailant's child. You hear so many stories of women having to have an abortion because they don't want to have their alleged abusive husband's children. Okay, they don't want to have their abductors' children. Women have been abducted and been pregnant. Again, a form of incest, or just didn't want it, and it was a one-time thing and kept on going and never happened again. But then again, you have some women that, it's almost literally like a rotating door, which to me, of course, is fucking pitiful. It really is. I understand your right, your choice, But when you're using it as revolving door instead of using the correct contraceptives to not pretty much using contraceptives so the government won't be on your ass. You know, it's kind of like what my mama said, that if you do too much, you stand out too much, you'll get noticed and you'll bring down the whole crowd. It's best to stay low key and just chill. Again, some women have taken abortion to a different level, to where, you have, you can get the implant. If don't want anything in your pelvic region, you can have the actual implant. It's a choice. You can do the birth control pill, which was a horror for me. I got pregnant with half of my children on birth control pills. Not gonna lie. You have orthotricycline. You have condoms. You have female condoms. You have different ways to stop yourself from getting pregnant. So even now, the men, allegedly, they're coming up with a contraceptive for men. So there are plenty ways to try to stop this from happening. Okay, I understand what they're saying, so I get that. Okay, again, now that Roe versus Wade has been overturned, you're going to again see backdoor abortions. You're going to see a lot of women that may die of infection. Again, you're going to see a lot of children that are going to be abandoned. It's going to be a lot of botched abortions. If you're talking about 50 years ago, you're talking about, quote unquote, allegedly the coat hanger era. I ain't gonna get into details, but you're going back to very medieval ways of not having a child that should be your choice. Again, we're going back to the quote unquote we're going back to the Constitution, and then we're going back to the 14th Amendment, which is like, I need something, I have to protect and preserve myself, my body. So that's why, of course, why we had Roe v. Wade, but now you have these judges that are now saying that there states nothing in the Constitution that says abortion is legal, even though if I have this child and let's say allegedly I'm a cancer patient and I'm unable to have this child due to chemotherapy, now I can't get an abortion because it's illegal. And any doctor that give it to me can either face jail time, $10,000 fines, their license revoked, but it's also to save my life. If I have this child, I'll die because I won't get the chemotherapy. So do you see the double-edged sword there? So what do you do in this situation? Now it's being stated, even if your life is in danger, no, we will not do an abortion. And I think that's insanity. And you're going to have a lot of women that are going to have, again, botched abortions, backdoor alley abortions. You're going to see a severe rise in the gynecology area, where they're going to have to help women because they're going to find other means. Some women don't have the money to go to other states and get abortions. I'm in Illinois, where abortions are, as for now, legal, but we are going into a new era where we could potentially get a new governor. So that means if we get a new governor, if the governor says he wants abortion, then Illinois will become a place where abortion is not legal. Okay. So again, but see, when you going into this abortion, now you open up a whole nother can of worms. That's why this is called, what has the state of America come to? Because Roe versus Wade has opened up another whole thing. You're going back to 50 years ago to where women now have no rights over their own bodies. Okay. That means you're also going back to the time of gay rights. You're also going back to the time of interracial marriages, where people are afraid that that will be a problem. And of course, the Supreme Court is saying, oh no, oh, that won't be a problem. But how can you be sure? Even before Roe v. Wade was overturned, it was leaked. It was leaked weeks ago that it was going to be overturned. And everyone was kind of upset and scared. And then you had the Supreme Court, oh, that was leaked. It wasn't true, this, that, and the third, but it actually was true verbatim. So again, we cannot trust, quote unquote, the people that has been elected into our judicial system. Let's not forget the Supreme Court judges that are up there now. They have been lawyers and judges for a long time. So that means they have climbed the ranks. And these are not new ideologies that they're thinking about. You know, these are things that they had strong opinions about, even that it was so controversial when they were going through their hearings to even become judges on the Supreme Court. So you have to go all the way back to that. And again, it's going to be a sad day, you know, that now, even if my life is in danger or I don't want to, you're going to make me have the baby. But again, if we're going back to 50 years ago, what else was happening 50 years ago, Mayday? Why don't we give you a little clips of what else was happening 50 years ago if you do not know? I don't know if you've heard before of forced sterilization. Okay. Now, if you haven't heard of forced sterilization, that's something that's not only happened with the Holocaust, but it did happen here in America. And in some places, they are still having forced sterilization in America and in Canada right now, and in other parts of the world about forced sterilization. So before we get into forced sterilization, let's take a look at it, okay? Let me go ahead and share my screen. Again, I'm learning to do different things over here. Okay. Let's see. Do we have it on screen? Yes, we do. We don't want that. We don't want no spam. Forced sterilization still legal in the United States. Now, this goes back to Ray Levy, Weber shares how the 1927 Supreme Court ruling has been used to justify the voluntary sterilization of more than 70,000 women in America and highlights organizations that are working to address the issue. Now, again, this happened back in 1927 when they was back here doing forced sterilization. And you may ask, well, who was they doing forced sterilization on? They was actually doing forced sterilization on Black, Latino, and immigrant women of descent and men. How would they do the forced sterilization? They were either say immigrants or African American, Black, or other minorities were bringing in too many kids. We were having too many kids at a faster rate. So to stop that, they would either say your child may be declared IQ may not be high enough to have children. You know, matter of fact, let me let y'all hear this for yourself, and you can understand what a little bit more of eugenics is. Let's go back. Okay.
Accused of skipping school and being sexually promiscuous. So the authorities responsible for juvenile delinquents committed her to a state hospital. After being administered an IQ test and assigned a low score, the doctors made their verdict. They told Sarah her 19-year-old daughter would be sterilized to prevent passing on what the state saw as a mental deficiency. This horrific tale may sound like a story from an authoritarian regime, but in fact, it took place in Southern California in 1938. And Andrea Garcia was one of thousands of poor women of color targeted by the state's relentless campaign.
Again in California. Again in California, where you were targeting women of color and other ethnic descents to where you would stop them from having children without their own free will and only at the tender age of 19, because you feel as though that they would pass on a mental deficiency. Are you serious? That's not, again, where is that protecting the woman's choice, the woman, their own rights? There is none.
Eugenics.
Eugenics.
Since ancient Greece, there have been efforts to control human populations via reproduction, retaining some traits and removing others. But in the 19th century, the discovery of evolution and genetics inspired a new scientific movement dedicated to this endeavor. In 1883, British scientist Sir Francis Galton named this idea eugenics, drawing from the Greek word for to be well born. This wave of modern eugenicists included prominent scientists and progressive reformers who believed they could improve society by ensuring that only desirable traits were passed down. However, their definition of what traits were and were not desirable was largely determined by the prejudices of their era. Entire categories of people were considered unfit for reproduction, including immigrants, people of color, and people with disabilities. Meanwhile, their ideal genetic standard reflected the movement's members, white Europeans of Nordic or Anglo-Saxon descent. As the influence of eugenics spread in the early 20th century, many countries restricted immigration and outlawed interracial unions. These measures to improve so-called racial hygiene were taken to their horrific conclusion in Nazi Germany. The Nazi eugenics campaign systematically killed millions of Jews, as well as individuals from other groups, including Roma, gay men, and people with disabilities. Outside their extreme brutality, however, Nazi eugenic policies reflected similar standards across the globe. Throughout the
United
mid-20th
States being
century,
one.
many countries enacted eugenics policies, and governments in Sweden, Canada, and Japan forcibly sterilized thousands of individuals. Sterilization was exceptionally common in the U.S. From 1907 to 1979, U.S. policies enforced the sterilization of over 60,000 people, with 32 states passing laws that mandated sterilization for men and women deemed mentally defective. This label was typically applied based on superficial mental health diagnoses and the results of IQ tests, which were linguistically and culturally biased against most immigrant populations. These racist standards were particularly problematic in California. From 1920 to 1945, Latina women were 59% more likely to be sterilized than other women, and the rate of sterilizations in California was incredibly high. This single state performed over 1/3 of the country's sterilization operations.
Now, 1/3 of the state's sterilization program, California alone. Yeah, California alone. Now, you're okay with sterilization, but you're not okay with abortion. I need help rationalizing that. How are you okay with one but not okay with the other? Now, of course, allegedly, it has been quote unquote stopped. But again, you have providences in Canada that are still doing forced sterilization on women right now. Convicts. If you've been convicted of a crime, or if you have too many babies, they'll tell you, oh, you're not leaving the hospital until you get your tubes tied. You're forcefully sterilizing women. Again, they don't have a right. They don't have a choice with their own body. Again, interracial marriages, gay people. Again, all these people were part of the eugenics project, which was deemed quote unquote unfit. And now you're telling women that they can't have abortion. So now you have to have babies. So how many of these quote unquote children will you, the state, deem unfit? How many more quote unquote facilities will open up and money will pour in for unwanted or quote unquote unfit children? Because let's forget, we're going back to the 50 years ago when orphanages were overran with unwanted children because women again did not have the right to have an abortion, or were, they weren't going to take the chance of going to a botched abortion place. So they had to go off half the base baby and put it up for adoption. And some of these children didn't even make it through to be 2 years old. They were brutally beat, brutally abused, brutally harmed. And some of them grew up and lived in very good homes, very good households. I'm not taking away from the ones. I'm taking about the pros and cons of how this can go. Again, now you taking away that right for a woman to have control again over her own body. And doesn't the Constitution say somewhere about preservation of own man or something like that? I'm just saying. I'm just trying to figure this out, because I'm not understanding how we can literally stop you from getting an abortion. But back here in 1927, all the way up to the late 1970s, the government, again, had eugenics programs to where even Hitler, it has been documented in history where even Hitler admired the United States eugenics project. What the fuck? Absolutely right, Almadine. That's the cat. Hitler was a bad person. Hitler killed a lot of motherfucking people. I'm just saying, Hitler is bad. And if Hitler got ideas from America, I ain't trying to sound like murky or anything, but wouldn't that make America bad? Shaking I'm just scratching the left side of my head with my right hand and trying to figure this out. Like, wouldn't that make us just as bad as Hitler? Again, we don't know what we never, again, as America, we can talk about everybody else motherfucking history, but we don't really get down to the cold, hard, nasty facts of American history, the dark side of American history. When I'm talking about the dark side of American history, I'm talking about the Buck versus Bell petition, where Carrie Buck was a feeble-minded woman who was committed to a state mental institution. Her condition had been present in her family for the last 3 generations. A Virginia law allowed for sexual sterilization of inmates of institutions to promote the health of the patient and the welfare of society. Again, now we're back at Roe versus Wade. This is to promote the health care and life of an unborn child and for the welfare of society. But it was a bad fucking thing to stop. I mean, it was a bad thing to have eugenics, and it's a bad thing to stop abortions. Again, if you ask me, I'm weighing out the pros and cons. We're going to do the pros. Women will find different contraceptions. No more just abortions at birth as birth control. 65 million babies don't have to die. And that's allegedly how many have died since abortion have started. This is more opportunity for growth, good parenting, and adoption. But then you have the cons. Women will die in botched abortions. They don't care if you're sick or if you're a mother. If you're in dire death with having this child, they're still going to make you have the child. So again, we're not caring about your health. You, the woman, the government has control over your body. I'm going to tell you you can't have an abortion. I'm going to tell you how many kids to have. I'm going to tell you having too many. I'm going to tell you that your kids are not fit, so you can't have any more kids. Are you serious? Are you serious? So if you deemed me unfit, you would sterilize myself and my daughters? Are you serious? Um, Again, the cons, you will find more babies abused and abandoned. Again, you will find more abuse by foster care because, again, some foster care systems look at children as meal tickets. That's why it's so hard to even do adoption in America because, again, foster system is so horrid that instead of giving the children to family members, they will reach out and give them to strangers that ends up killing them. It's happened time and time again. And in times when the children should not be in the home, like the story of AJ Friend, where he should not have been in the home with his parents, yet he was allowed, and they killed their own 5-year-old child and buried his body miles from the house. Okay. So again, do I agree every woman is a parent? Hell no. Mm-mm. Do I agree every man can be a father? No, because in the case of AJ Friend, it wasn't two foster parents or two adopted parents. It was his own parents. And he was already in foster care, which he should have stayed with the foster parents because he was growing, thriving, and doing well. But again, the system fails. So you're going to have more kids in this situation because you're going to have unwanted kids, and you're going to have kids that you're going to say, well, we shouldn't separate them from the parents. But you can clearly see it's abuse from the parents have. The children are walking around with black eyes, underweight, busted lip, numerous broken bones over the years. So you see these things and you see these red flags and nothing be done. Again, the government. And these kids are going to be used as pawns. You're going to find men and women that are going to be getting women pregnant, going to be getting pregnant and using them as pawns, because now abortion is not legal. So again, you're going back 50 years ago when same-sex marriage was not legal, when interracial marriage was not legal. You're going back to where in the 60s, 30s, 40s, 50s to 20s, where you had eugenics, where you can literally take the reproductive parts from a woman and stop her from having children because you deem her genetics are unfit. But again, before the procedure could be performed, however, a hearing was required to determine whether or not the operation was a wise thing to do. Conclusion. The court found that the statute did not violate the Constitution. Justice Holmes made it clear that Buck's challenge was not upon the medical procedure involved, but the process of substantive law. Since sterilization could not occur until a proper hearing had occurred, at which the patient and guardian could be present, and after the Circuit Court and County of Supreme Court of Appeals had reviewed the case, if so requested by the patient, only after months of observation could the operation take place. Of course, I had to do the same thing because I got my tubes tied. The shit wasn't forced upon me. I did it willingly because, again, I have fibromyalgia. I have a plate and 4 screws in my neck from an accident from over 12 years ago. And I had a child after the accident. So, and that literally was an unexpected birth, and I had a choice, and I chose, of course, to keep my baby. And she was the easiest and healthiest birth I had. Of course, for me personally, Mayday Mayhem, there was no doubt in my mind for myself that I was going to have the baby, But after I had her, I looked at myself like, you know what? You're not in the best of health. You're getting older. You do want to live and enjoy your children, So my best situation was to get my tubes tied. And trust me, that doctor watched my ass the whole time, all the way up until it was time to get it done. Because I was only 33 when I had my tubes tied. I was young, and he told me, but you can have at least 6 more children. You can have more children. And I asked him, are you going to take care of them? I'm just saying, if I have them, is you going to take care of them? He said, no. No. I said, well, here's the question. No. But that's for me. I want that for myself. Again, I had my first child when I was 19. So I was done at 33. But again, you have to be competent enough to understand. And what they pretty much was doing was swapping the paperwork. They was swapping the paperwork in some cases where people were going there to get knee injections or get their knees done or stuff like that, and they come out, with a tubal ligation, or the men's have been butchered to where they can't have children anymore. Again, eugenics project, because it was unfair, unfit for the race. As you heard me play in the recording, it talked about literally what you can find on TEDx, which I don't care. I'll be watching that shit on the big screen TV, be like, yes, interesting hypothesis. I really do. But yeah, it tells you how it went from era to era based on the prejudice during the days, from immigrants to African Americans to the people that they deemed feeble-minded. Now, again, allegedly, the surgery did not go through, and some people say that it did go through. But it just wasn't this one young lady. It was millions of women that endured this. So again, if you're talking about 50 years ago, what else happened 50 years ago? Let's talk about the whole dark truth of what else happened 50 years ago. Okay? We're not also going to talk about, since we want to go back 50 years, we want to go back to Stone Age. Let's go back to where there was doing forced experimentation on Black and immigrants and of other descents. Forced experiments and on criminals in jail, in the mental asylums. These are the dark part of history that we do not know about and that we do not learn about. We always learn about, yay, the 4th of July when 1776 and United States got independence. Or they'll give us a smidge of the dark history. Slavery was bad. But then we had the United States, which is the greatest country. Back it up. Did you just say slavery was bad? You just smudged right on over that little piece right there. You just smudged right on over that little 400-500 years right there real quick, huh, buddy? And we're just not talking about the Black people, the enslavement of other countries, of other ethnic identities. We're just going to smidge over all that, huh? Well, sir, then, okay. Now, yay, with the flags. Okay, wow. We never talk about the underbelly, the dark side of history and why it is the way it is. So again, ask yourself this question. Now with Roe v. Wade being overturned, will this open up a whole nother can of worms for America? Will it eventually trickle down and affect same-sex marriage and interracial marriage? Because again, you're taking away the rights of an individual. And I'm not saying, oh, but the baby is there during conception. A lot of women don't even know they're pregnant until they're 8-9 weeks. They have no clue. None. Hell, with my first one, I didn't know I was pregnant damn near 13 weeks. I'm like, got past the whole trimester. Didn't know that one. Wow. So, it happens like that. You don't know. And then with my first one, it was 13 weeks. My last one, I found out I was 2 weeks pregnant. I bullshit you not. I kid you no lie. I was 2 weeks pregnant when I found out. Literally 2 weeks. And what happened? I was there to have a injection, of course, in my back and all that, because of my accident I had years ago. But don't let that injection fool you, boo. I don't know what that sound I just made was. It was supposed to be ferocious, but I don't think it came off ferocious. But you'll tell me later. Y'all tell me later. But um, I was there to have an injection, and when they found out I was pregnant, they said we can't do the injection, and I said why? They said because it will give you like a spontaneous abortion. You need to go and see a physician and come back and let us know once you've made a decision. Now, if you're going to continue to have the baby, then no, we can't do the shot. Now, if you're not going to have the baby, you do what you need to do and then come back and get your shot. Again, me personally, I chose the child, and I just said, well, we'll just see. We'll wait it out and see. And again, she was one of my healthiest children born, so not mad. But again, I was given that choice. Even due to my medical history, I was given that choice. Now that choice is out. It's out. You're going to literally, it sounds like you're going to have this baby whether it kills you. I hate to be dark with it, but that's how it's sounding. So it's a sad day, because again, if you're throwing Roe versus Wade out and saying that, you're giving it to the states to have legal representation over a woman's body, then what else is next? Okay, no abortions. Oh, well, you know what? We're only going to abort the ones that we don't want. Is that what's going to be next? Again, that's why I said, what's the state of America? Now, we didn't overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, is you going to start forcing sterilization on people that you don't want to have the babies, or that's producing too many babies in the next few years? Once the population of babies growing, since women will no longer be allowed to get an abortion, will you then say, you know what, Black people, you're making too many babies. We're going to start, only allowing you to be Black. If you're Black, you can have an abortion. Or if you're of a Latino or ethnic descent, you can have an abortion. Will you start picking out and pruning who you deem worthy enough to stay on this planet or give life to, and say, no, that's not deemed worthy? Again, this is coming from the same people that in 1927 all the way up to 1970s, 80s had eugenics program where they forcibly sterilized women without their knowledge. And now you're telling me that I have to have a baby if I don't want to, or even under distress, I have to. Some people are overjoyed. I saw a poll that was stated that at least 64% of America was happy that abortion became illegal, and another 34% was unhappy. And again, from my side, it should be, your choice, whatever, but it should not be used as a rotating shop of contraceptive instead of protecting yourself to where you don't have to have a baby. Again, we live in a modern time where if you don't want to have a baby, you can have contraceptive to where you don't have to have a baby. You don't have just one way. You have 10, 15 different ways to stop you from having a baby. And also, every time you have an abortion, is doing harmful effects to the female reproductive body parts. So I can see it going both ways. But in my case, I feel like it should be left up to the individual. Look, it's up to you. Even when abortion was allegedly legal, you have places here in Illinois that a 12-year-old could allegedly have an abortion and not tell their parents that they had one. To now where we're in America where you bet not have an abortion. Like a 12-year-old. 12-year-old should be playing with Barbie dolls and video games. Not having to go and have an abortion and not tell their parents. So again, I see it from both ends, both sectors. I understand. But again, if you going with the Constitution, it's a lot of racist shit up in that Constitution some of y'all don't know about. I'm just saying. Even the original Star Spangled Banner was little what would we say? Ratchet. That second verse. We only hear the first. We think about we only sing the first verse of Star Spangled Banner. What's up with that second verse? Yeah. Certain parts of the Constitution was not for Black and immigrant people. It was made for Anglo-Saxon and European descent, quote unquote, whites. So if we're going back to some parts of the Constitution, certain parts had to be ratified. That's why we had to come up with the Emancipation Proclamation that deemed all men to be equal, because certain parts of the Constitution said that men were not. Like a Black man was only 1/3 of a man. What the fuck? So you look at that situation and say, if we're doing this, what's next? So all we can do is pray for better days and pray for the health and sanity of each other. So I'm going to end this stream by saying, like I always say, y'all know what my saying is. If nobody told you they love you, I do. I truly, truly do. Make sure you do better today than you did yesterday and strive for a better tomorrow today. You are valuable. You are precious. You're one of a kind. Don't let nobody tell you nothing different. Okay? You're special. Don't hear that bullshit there. No, you're special. You're one of a kind. It's only one of you here. So, again, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy. And I'll see y'all next time for another Mayday Mayhem podcast stream. I'm out. Y'all have a good one. Stay safe, stay healthy. And again, you are loved and you are appreciated. Don't let nobody tell you wrong.